The Lions getting an impressive road win against the Arizona Cardinals, 20-13 to wrap up week 3. I want to start with the defense. The Detroit Lions did all they could defensively. They held a team to 13 points, a team in the Cardinals that scored over 40 the week prior against the Rams. Marvin Harrison Jr., who went over 100 yards week 2, was reasonably held in check for the type of physical specimen that he is, being targeted, 11 times, but, held to just one touchdown. Obviously, you'd like to not have that given up, but 13 points. So the Lions did their job. Terry and Arnold, I know one of the talking points was how often he's been targeted and the amount of receptions he's given up. And, I'll say it's easy to look at that and say that he's had a down start to the season. But when I look at Terry and Arnold, I compare him to another high pick in Jeff Okudah. And when Jeff Okudah was with this team, when we looked at the receptions he was giving up, there was so much space between him and the receiver. Terry and Arnold is always in the picture. He is always right next to the receiver. His issue right now is that he's not turning around and locating the ball. So, and oftentimes, if it's not a great pass, and he's standing there, he doesn't know where the ball is coming from. He's in the way and he gets called for a penalty. I think, that's something he can learn. I think once he, as he continues to gain some confidence and, experience, he will start locating that ball. But I have no concerns at all with him being able to guard some of the top receivers. I mean, you think about week 1, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua, week 2, Godwin and Mike Evans. And then week 3, having to go up against Marvin Harrison Jr. It has not been an easy task for him. And I think he's done very well, considering this is a rookie, and cornerback is one of the most difficult positions to play because you're alone and you're going up against, some absolute monsters on the edge and you're on an island by yourself oftentimes. So I've been impressed with him, regardless of the catches he's given up. It hasn't turned into a lot of points. I mean, you think about the Lions week 1, we gave up 20 points to an explosive Rams offense. Week 2, we gave up 20 points to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Week 3, we gave up 13 points. So this team is averaging about 17 points a game given up on defense. I think that's incredibly impressive. But unfortunately, the offensive side of the ball has been very inconsistent. This team has not scored over 20 points in regulation. 20 points in the first 4 quarters against the Rams week 1, obviously a touchdown in overtime. Week 2, we scored 16 points against Tampa Bay, 2 playoff teams. And then week 3, we only scored 20 points against the Cardinals, not scoring a single point in the second half. This is a tale of two halves. The Lions have struggled to maintain some drives. And when they have gotten down the field, unfortunately, they've gotten some penalties or they've gone away from the run game. The run game was very successful today, 186 yards on the ground, over 5 yards a carry for Gibbs, just under 5 for Montgomery. The offensive line did their job. But unfortunately, after 4 or 5 successful run plays and you get a first down, Jared Goff then drops back to pass and it's incomplete. And then so we have to pass again and then it's a sack and then all of a sudden it's a punt. Or when we're going for it on 4th and 1, unfortunately, we're running trick plays. We're doing some misdirections instead of using that offensive line and going straight downhill for that 1-yard gain. And we had a couple opportunities to pick it up and we didn't, because of that. So those are some things we need to work on. Luckily, we're 2-1 and we haven't played well in any of the 3 games offensively, in my opinion. Once again, Jared Goff has thrown a pick. So in all 3 games, he's thrown an interception, 2 interceptions last week. So, he's 3 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions on the season. That's not great. When you look at the Lions, we are a top 5 team when it comes to yards offensively. We're top 5, offense as far as yards, but we're around 10 or 11 when it comes to actual points scored. And that's a problem because that means that we're, in opportune times, we're turning the ball over, throwing interceptions, or, not getting in on 4th down or getting penalties that cause us to have to punt. So these are things I think the Lions will fix. It is frustrating to be dealing with it in week three and saying the same thing again, that we'll get it together. But, this is what happens when you are a quality team. You are able to win some games when you're not playing your best. And the Lions certainly are not playing their best. But defensively, I've been very impressed. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson with another sack, him and Davenport, Levi Uzarike getting some pressures on the QB. Um, there were times where Kyler Murray did escape, and that's been the Achilles heel of the Lions defense. We struggle against elite mobility. So when we play those quarterbacks like Justin Fields last year, Kyler Murray this year, Lamar Jackson last year, when we play Anthony Richardson later in the season, these are guys that have the ability to really scramble and get out of the pocket. And that's something that if the pressure doesn't get there right away, or if we don't, connect and get the sack, they're running for 20 plus yards on us. And we need our linebackers to be healthy too. Obviously, Derek Barnes getting injured. Anzalone not even playing. So Jack Campbell, we had him step in. We had Jalen Reeves Maben out there, Malcolm Rodriguez. So we've got some guys who have experience. But we gotta make sure that we don't allow quarterbacks to shake through the defensive line and then run for these massive games, because that really tires out the defense. But I think we've done a very good job. We go back to week one where we look at Cooper Kupp having, double digit receptions. But you look at his average, it was under 8 yards per reception. So the Lions give up a lot of passes, a lot of receptions, and a decent amount of yards, but it does not, translate into points. Now, whereas our red zone defense has been pretty good, unfortunately, our red zone offense has been pretty poor. And that's why we get a lot of yards, but we get down there and we don't capitalize and get the points. I need the Lions to figure it out and get it together, because, this is a capable team. But when we look at our own division, we see Green Bay continuing to win 2-1. We see, obviously Chicago fell to 1-2, but we see Minnesota 3-0. And, I'm going to go ahead and put this out there right now. I think Minnesota, because of the way that they've played on offense and defense, they are, I would put them ahead of the Lions in the power rankings. And it's not just because of a knee jerk reaction, but when you look at the way a team has been playing and defensively, they have 16 sacks. The Lions have 8. That's a big deal, that those stop drives. They also are second in the league in interceptions. So not only are they getting sacks, getting to the quarterback, but they're forcing turnovers as well too. That's huge for that defense. And I mean, we already know the weapons that they've had on offense. So the Lions will be meeting them in a couple of weeks, so that we'll see who the true team on top of the NFC North is. But I'll give the edge to the Vikings right now because of how they're playing. But I hope the Lions can put, a good game together next week, go out on a bye and be ready, for week 6. But shout out to the Lions for getting it done. This was, again, I would have liked to see a larger margin of victory to show dominance, show that we are that team. But, early in the season is not what matters. It's how we're playing late. And I think the Lions will start to pick up some steam and be the team that we thought they are. So as always, go Lions.